welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. The Indian rupee is in a free fall, marks the biggest single-day decline in 2 years as dollar index continues to strengthen. Rupee is the worst performing global currency today. Crude oil prices also near 5-month highs. Nifty gives up all the gains since the Lok Sabha elections, dropping to its lowest level in 7 months. All sectoral indices end in the red. Mid-caps get battered. 15 lakh crore rupees worth investor wealth wiped out in a single day. Government is considering potential customs duty rejig on more than 200 items ahead of the budget. Sources say import duty exemptions under review to protect domestic companies. That's an exclusive. Shares of D-Mart's parent Avenue Supermart declines after margins contract in Q3. Company also announces Noronha will step down as CEO after 12 months. Unilever executive Anshul Asava will take charge after February next year. Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi says situation along the India-China border remains sensitive but stable. Highlights that infiltration attempts into Jammu and Kashmir from across the border continues. Says 60% of the terrorists eliminated in Kashmir last year were of Pakistani origin. At least 24 people have been killed as wildfires rage in Los Angeles for the 6th straight day. More than 1.5 lakh people forced to flee their homes. 24,000 acres of land has been gutted so far. Close to a crore pilgrims expected to take the holy dip at the river confluence on day one as the Maha Kumbh gets underway in Uttar Pradesh's Prayagraj. The 45-day event is expected to witness over 45 crore footfall.
I would not say this is right and this is wrong. My only thing would be, how many hours ever it is. I would say it needs to be useful and there need to be a good change in whatever you do.
Badminton ace PV Sindhu steers clear of the debate around working hours. L&T CEO sparked a social media furor after advising employees to work on Sundays. All right, let's start with the money market action where the rupee is in a free fall. The Indian currency weakened further to hit a fresh all-time low in today's trade. Several other Asian currencies also weakened as the dollar index surged. The rupee recorded its steepest fall in nearly 2 years, making it the worst performing global currency today. $1 now costs 86 rupees and 50 paise. Indian bonds also came under pressure as 10-year yields spiked. And Lata Venkatesh is here with the details. Lata, what drove this sharp depreciation?
Well, first for the record, some records were set today at 0.7% fall to 86.58 thereabouts, the intraday low. This is the sharpest fall that the rupee has seen in 2 years. And this is also one of those rare days when the rupee has underperformed all Asian currencies. The baht, the Filipino peso and the Malaysian ringgit fell between 0.3 and 0.6% to the rupee's 0.7%. The yuan actually appreciated a wee bit, just a wee bit, largely steady. But the rupee clearly stood out for its, underperformance. The key reason, of course, has been the way in which the dollar has surged. 0.43% rise in the dollar index on Friday because of the very strong jobs data. But the point is that in previous instances, the rupee did not underperform because the Reserve Bank came in and stepped in with a lot of dollar supply. This time, the Reserve Bank's role was a bit, muted, you may say. They were apparently supplying dollars, but they were moving with the market. There was no effort to protect any level or come in aggressively. The sale was largely by FPIs because you saw the stock market fall, but not entirely. There were already people sitting with long rupee positions and they were just making more money. It was also a speculator's field day because the Reserve Bank was not protecting 86, not 86.25, not 86.50. So people are at a loss to give us any new level. We got a level from Standard Chartered for the year end at 87.75. The intraday moves are really difficult to guess because you really don't know how the dollar index will move, nor do you know what the Reserve Bank may do. It's possible that because there are too many rupee shots in the market, they come in tomorrow to protect the rupee. But at the moment, it looks like the rupee can fall further simply because the global dollar strength has not stopped. As well, today the rupee closed at the lowest point of the day. Very quickly on bond yields as well, you saw the yields rise. Even as the US yields rose. So Indian 10-year bond rose from 6.8 to 6.84. But more importantly, the call market, which is the one-day money market, banks borrowing from one another for just 24 hours, that market saw the rates surge to 7%. That should logically remain at 6.5%, which is the repo rate. But clearly, there was a liquidity shortage because the Reserve Bank is supplying dollars for so long now that there is a liquidity shortage. Of course, Reserve Bank supplied some 50,000 crores through a variable repo rate auction. But the yields are moving up because US yields moved up very sharply. The 10-year in the US moved by 7 basis points on Friday, and looks like the Monday trades are also going to be higher in terms of US yields. Likewise for the US 30-year yields over 5%. Now, a big point is the market is taking off bets of any Fed rate cut. For instance, Bank of America thinks there is no Fed cut at all in 2025. And a similar sentiment is playing in the Indian market. A couple of banks, HDFC Bank and Standard Chartered, told us that they are not expecting a February rate cut. That's the market's position. In fact, the market, if you go by the derivatives market, the overnight index swap market, it looks like they're not expecting a rate cut from the Reserve Bank all the way till June.
Right, Lata, please stay on with us. Let's also talk about the big macro data of the day, which has been released. India's retail inflation that moderated in December, coming in at 5.22%. Please take us through your analysis.
Oh, this is the best news that has hit us. Maybe you may say the CPI is a sideshow at this point in time, but versus expectations of 5.3%, we've got a 5.22. So this is 2 months in a row that inflation is undershooting. In November as well, the polls were expecting between 5.5 and 5.6, and we got a 5.48. So this is 2 months in a row that inflation has undershot. Now it is even less than the Reserve Bank's third quarter, October-November forecast of 5.7. It's coming in a tad lower than that, more like 5.63 or thereabouts. It is not the bad news is it's not reflected in food. Food inflation is still 8.3%, which is very much in line with what our polls said. Our polls at 8.3, actually what's come in as 8.39. Cereals inflation has jumped up month on month. Now, that's what comes as a surprise. Vegetables, year-on-year inflation is higher at about 26%. But month on month, the vegetables inflation has fallen. The other factor which is going against food inflation is oils and fats. You know, after those import tariffs were raised, edible oils continue to rise, and you have an edible oil inflation of 14.6% year on year. So those are, I would think the troublesome number is cereals, that month on month as well, we're seeing a cereals push. Core inflation, which many people thought will actually get a little worse, is actually lower at 3.6%. So that's the positive. Overall, this is a good number for a market and an economy thirsting for good news. This comes as a positive.
Right, thank you, Lata, for that. On to the stock market action now. A cocktail of weak global and domestic cues led to a sell-off on Dalal Street. The Sensex lost over 1,000 points. The Nifty dropped to its lowest level in 7 months, wiping out all the gain made since the Lok Sabha election results. Mid-caps got battered, with the index losing more than 4%. All in all, 15 lakh crore rupees worth of investor wealth was wiped out in a single day. Prashant Nair is here with the market wrap.
Well, it was going to be an ugly session, and we had an inkling of that because we knew how the gift Nifty was trading. We also knew that the rupee was looking precarious. It had broken 86 on Friday post-closing. And then, of course, you had that big blowout US jobs data, which led to the dollar index going up to 110, bond yields rising sharply. And to boot, you also had oil prices, which between Friday and this morning are up 5%. So it was like the perfect storm as we came into trading this morning. And well, markets did not disappoint on the downside. At one point, the Nifty, especially towards the end, was looking down some 400 points. There was some recovery which set in, but it was still a pretty poor session. The Nifty Bank, of course, has been in a poor, free fall kind of a situation for the last several days, underperforming the Nifty. The mid and small cap indices till Friday's close, remember, the mid and small cap indices were down 10% in line with what the Nifty was from their respective all-time highs. But today, mid and small caps picked up pace on the downside accelerating about 4% each, 4% cuts each. So that's the kind of sort of session which we had today. On the Nifty, for example, you just had about 4 stocks which ended in the green. Everything else was down and out. I mean, just to give you a flavor of what was down, Adani Enterprises was the top loser, 6.5 gone. Trent was down 5%. BPCL, Adani Ports, Bharat Electronics were names which were down over 4% or so. What was up? There was Axis Bank, TCS and IndusInd Bank, and throw in a HUL, and that's it. That's the winners list as far as the Nifty 50 is concerned. As I said, some 10-1 in favor of declines. That was the breadth of the market. So look pretty washed out uniformly. Just to give you a sense of the big volume-led losses, Kalyan Jewellers continues to come off very sharply. Amber was down 10%. Adani Wilmar down another 10%. Policy Bazaar, there was a brokerage downgrade, 9% lower. PCBL 10%. Mazgaon about 9% lower. Transrail, RVNL, Just Dial, Lodha, K Fintech, Dam Capital, Car Trade, and I can go on. But these are some of the biggest volume-led losers that you had in terms of trade today. There were winners as well. Piramal Pharma, for example, was up about 5%. That was the number one volume-led winner. AB Capital, there was a brokerage upgrade. It ended about 1% higher. And there was something like a Happiest Minds, a CRISIL, and AstraZeneca, which were, I mean, up, but up small, between 1 and 2.5% each. It's very much a macro-driven, top-down market. And I think we'll have to wait for those things to stabilize before we're able to sort of call a halt as far as this market turbulence is concerned. Back to you.
Thank you, Prashant, for that. As Prashant was pointing out, mid-caps and small-caps saw sharper cuts today. Both mid-cap and small-cap index was down over 4%. Hormaz Vatakia is here with more on the broader market sell-off. Hormaz.
Absolute mayhem in the broader markets, particularly in the mid-cap and the small-cap index, both of them ending 4% lower in today's session. But more importantly, the sell-off that has been on for the last 6 odd trading sessions since the closing of the 3rd of January, that has led to a wealth erosion of almost 32 lakh crore rupees, which is among the BSE listed companies that I'm talking about. And it's just since these last 6 trading sessions, the mid-cap index is down 9%. The small-cap index has gone one better, is down 11% in just these last 6 trading sessions. Remember, a 10% fall indicates that the 10% fall from the top indicates that the index is now in correction territory. And if you look at the positives, well, there are few and far in between. For the mid-cap index and the small-cap index, only 3 stocks each out of 100 were in positive territory over these last 6 trading sessions, which were some of the biggest losers then within the mid-cap space. Kalyan Jewellers, as Prashant was just pointing out too, is down 26% in the last 6 sessions. PB Fintech, Paytm, Godrej Properties, mind you, all of these names, or most of these names at least, were big movers in 2024, at least doubling in shareholder value over the last year. And among the small caps as well, be it KC International, Blue Star, Aditya Birla Real Estate, Inox Wind, Swan Energy, all of them seeing losses anywhere between 20 to 25% over the last 6 trading sessions. So mayhem across the broader markets, almost 30 lakh crore worth of investor wealth wiped out. It remains to be seen how much more pain is left for these names.
Right, thank you, Hormaz, for that. Shares of Standard Glass Lining Technology debuted at a premium of nearly 23% on the NSE. The IPO was subscribed 183 times, with qualified institutional bidders leading the bidding race. The company garnered 410 crore rupees via the public offer. The 700 crore rupee IPO from Lakshmi Dental was fully subscribed within an hour of the issue opening for investors. As of 4 p.m., the total subscriptions stood at over 4 times. The demand was led by retail investors, whose portion was subscribed by over 11 times. The portion for non-institutional investors was also subscribed by over 8 times. Biocon's shares gained in trade after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration cleared its biologics arms insulin facility in Malaysia. The U.S. drug regulator has classified the unit as voluntary action indicated. This opens the doors for the company to go ahead and file products from that facility. This comes after the unit received an official action indicated status in October 2023. Shares of D-Mart's parent Avenue Supermart have declined after margins contracted in the 3rd quarter of the fiscal. The company has also announced that Noronha will step down as CEO after 12 months. Unilever executive Anshula Sava will take charge. Mangalam Malu is here with more. Mangalam, tell us more about Avenue Supermart's performance.
Well, if you look at DMart's performance in the third quarter, there was one positive and a couple of negatives. The positive, however, was priced in because the positive came in the form of an 18% revenue growth, which the street had already reacted to with a 10% uptick on the stock as the company reported its third quarter operational update a week ago itself. That brings us to the exposure to the negatives, and the biggest negative was that of margin compression. A near 60 basis points compression in their EBITDA margins, led by an equal amount of compression in gross margins by 20 basis points, an impact of 20 basis points on employee expenses and other operating expenses, because the company did cite the increased intensity in FMCG competition and or rather FMCG discounting, along with increased operating leverage on store expansion and general merchandise and apparel being just about 23% of their revenue, so no material change in contribution coming in from that high margin product as well. The second negative was a surprise where there was a management change, where Neville Noronha has decided to step aside from the position of CEO and MD at DMart after being there at the helm for over 2 decades, and as a result of which the leadership transition uncertainty caused further pressure on the stock. The company's gone ahead and appointed Anshul Asawa as the CEO designate, who's currently the country head of Unilever Thailand, has been with Unilever for over 30 years. So the positive already priced in, 2 negatives with a weak market led to DMart losing 5% today.
Thank you, Mangalam, for that. Time for a short break, but coming up next, government is considering potential customs duty rejig on more than 200 items ahead of the budget. Exclusive details when we return. Welcome back. You're watching Business 360. A government panel is set to meet in New Delhi for the selection of the new RBI Deputy Governor. The current Deputy Governor, Michael Patra's term will end on January 15th. We learn from sources that the government may give preference to candidates outside the RBI or the government. The likely applicants include National Council of Applied Economic Researchers Poonam Gupta, Chetan Ghate from the Institute of Economic Growth, and Ashoka University's Prachi Mishra, among others. Less than 3 weeks to go for the union budget, we learned that the government is considering tweaking several custom duties. Timsi Jaipuria is here with more on what we can expect.
Well, that's right. What we are given to understand from sources is that the government is considering a customs duty rejig on as many as 200 plus items to protect domestic companies. Sources say that currently the government is reviewing import duty exemptions that are given to these 200 plus items. The exercise is understood to be underway to assess to remove import duty exemptions that create an inverted duty structure scenario. Sources said that the customs duty rejig under this review exercise is likely to benefit sectors such as solar, EV, pharma, electronics and mobile phones, steel, etc. And yes, all of this is under active consideration. Sources added that the government is keen on having WTO compliant support mechanism for domestic companies and is eyeing some measures to protect the domestic companies from the Trump administration's protectionist policies. As of now, no decision has been finalized as yet, but definitely a detailed review is on the cards, and now to be seen is what all does the upcoming budget unveil for the industry when it comes from the custom duties side. Back to you.
Right, thank you, Timsi, for that. Let's get to the latest from West Asia. Israeli forces continue to attack Gaza, killing at least 5 Palestinians in attacks on a school. A total of 17 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza today. This amidst reports that mediator Qatar has handed Israel and Hamas a final draft of a ceasefire designed to end the war in Gaza. Israel's siege of North Gaza crossed the 100-day mark. Ukraine's president has offered to release 2 captured North Korean soldiers in exchange for Ukrainian soldiers held in Russia. Remember, neither Moscow nor Pyongyang have officially acknowledged the presence of North Korean troops in Russia. Zelensky posted photographs of the 2 captured soldiers who were treated for their injuries. Meanwhile, Russia said it downed 9 Ukrainian drones that tried to attack the Turk Stream gas pipeline through which Russian gas flows to Turkey and Europe. At least 24 people have been killed as wildfires rage in Los Angeles for the 6th straight day. More than 1.5 lakh people forced to flee their homes. 24,000 acres of land has been gutted so far. However, the nightmare is not over yet, as stronger winds are expected to return later this week. Back home, rescue operations at a flooded, abandoned coal mine in Assam's Maha Kumbh district entered the 8th day. 4 bodies have been recovered so far. 5 more people are fear-trapped. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Z-Mode tunnel in Kashmir's Gandarbal district. The 6.5-kilometer long tunnel, now renamed as Sonmarg Tunnel, would provide all-year access between Srinagar and the famous tourist destination. J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah, Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari and LG Manoj Sinha were also present for the inauguration event. Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi has said that the situation along the India-China border remains sensitive but stable. The Army Chief was addressing the annual press conference ahead of the 77th Army Day. He highlighted that infiltration attempts into Jammu and Kashmir from across the border continue.
But it's stable but sensitive, point number 1. So, what does it mean? That there have been a series of meetings. Firstly, among the ministers, even the Prime Minister has met the Chinese head. Similarly, the meetings have taken place at the level of the Corps Commander. As you are aware, the 22nd SHM sale took place on 21st October, which finished. We have inducted 15,000 additional troops in year 2024. And that is why you will find that the violence level has gone down, where we have been able to neutralize 73 terrorists, out of which 60%, like I told you, were Pakistan terrorists.
And with that's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. News and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.